Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of Atari 8-bit games, some which I grew up with and some which are new to me. Today's game is Bovver. This is another game from the mind of Jeff Minter and his dad, if stories are to be believed. It came out in 1983 and it's one of the most British games I've ever seen. So the protagonist of this game is called Gordon Bennett, which for those of you who aren't British or middle class, is basically a way of cursing without cursing. Instead of going, "Oh God," you go, "Oh, Gordon Bennett," or something along those lines. It also makes use of a piece of music that is very much associated with Britishness. It's a folk tune called Country Gardens that is typically attributed to Percy Grainger, and it's also often used for Morris dancing, which is another very British activity that I'm not going to demonstrate for you right now. Bovver is a game about mowing lawns, which is an unusual concept. It's quite unusual for Minter as well, and it doesn't involve anything intergalactic blasting the crap out of anything else intergalactic. No llamas, no camels, nothing like that. Just a man mowing the lawn with his neighbour's mower. And a dog. And an irate gardener. And, well, some other stuff as well. It actually got a 2002 sequel for Windows and Pocket PC. The latter of which was just one of many failed platforms that Minter decided to support over his career. It was basically the same game, but it added a few additional elements. We'll maybe talk a bit about that when we come to actually play the game itself. So, for now, let's go play Bovver. Okay, here we go with Bovver from Jeff Minter. This is probably one of Jeff Minter's most unusual games. Thematically, not so much mechanically, I guess, but yeah, it really stands out from his catalogue by not being massively weird. I mean, it's quite weird, but it's not massively weird. It's not about sheep flying through space or llamas at the edge of time or anything like that. It's about a guy trying to mow his lawn, but his lawnmower's broken, so he has to borrow his neighbour's mower. And apparently he loves the llama. There you go. Anyway, let's play. So, you can start at one of 8 different lawns, and you can play with 1 or 2 players with 1 or 2 joysticks. It's just me, as usual, so I'll be starting from lawn number 1 as 1 player with 1 stick. So, here we go. We begin with a cutscene where Gordon Bennett is borrowing Jim's mower, as Jim has rather foolishly left his garage open for Gordon to wander in and grab his mower, which, as we can clearly see, is a rather nice fly mow. And thus begins our adventure. So the way this works is Gordon is the yellow dude with the red mower, and you have to mow all the lawn. And that's it, really. The blue guy is your neighbour, who is trying to get his lawnmower back. And the black thing is your dog. Your dog just wanders around randomly for the most part, until his tolerance runs out, at which point he starts chasing after you. And if you hit the dog with your lawnmower, then it will immediately overheat and freeze you in place for a few seconds, which will usually result in the neighbour coming to get you. However, while your dog's loyalty bar is high enough, you can press the fire button to send him after your neighbour. Oops. Which will keep him off your back a bit. However, if you go on the flower beds like I just did, you will also attract the wrath of the gardener, who will come and take your lawnmower. And a nice little touch, you can actually speed up these scenes by holding down the fire button as well. So you're not forced to sit and watch that. So basically, success in this game is about planning a route, manipulating the neighbour, not going on flower beds, and making good use of the dog. So to get over to the other side now, what we need to do is we want to try and lure the neighbour over into this part of the level. There we go. And keep him trapped there with the dog while we finish off.
And there we go. I think you'll agree, very nicely done, were it not for the loss of a life. So you only have 3 lives in this. You go through Jim's mower, Tom's mower, and then Alf's mower. As far as I'm aware, there isn't a way of getting any extra lives either. Some later ports and the later Windows and Pocket PC sequel gave you 5 lives instead of 3. But no, in this, you have your 3 lives, and that's it. So this is a really fun game because, I mean, it's a really simple idea that works well, but it's also got that lovely sense of humour about it as well. Like, if you look down at the dialogue that appears down at the bottom of the screen, it just adds a load of personality to the whole thing. Right, again, we want to try and lure the neighbour somewhere that's where we aren't. Keep the dog away. You also notice you get a load of points for keeping the dog on the neighbour as well. So that's worth doing. But remember, as soon as dog loyalty runs out, you can't do that anymore. And if the dog's tolerance has also run out at that point, he's just going to chase after you, and it's going to be very inconvenient for everyone involved. So after a certain point, you want to try and keep the dog confined as much as the neighbour. But you see, their AI is pretty limited. So if I just stand here, he's just there. Right, we are almost out of loyalty. Oh, there we go. So that's what happens if you hit the dog. And that leaves you wide open to getting your mower taken away. Good old Alf. He's a decent chap. So, again, keep the neighbour away. Try and keep him confined over there for the minute while we finish off this side of things. There we go. That'll do it nicely. And then we just need to do this middle bit before we lure him over to this side. So if I stand here, bring him over, although the dog's keeping him at bay. You'll notice he keeps away from the dog even if the dog isn't attacking him, which is understandable, given the nature of your mutt. And level 2 done. I think that sort of intermission screen there, that's probably the most Jeff Minter thing about this game. Just the completely unnecessary psychedelic colours and arcade game noises in a game about lawn mowing. Right, so this one, it's a good idea to sort of take a section at a time so you can keep the neighbour occupied behind that bush there. Don't have to spend too much of your dog loyalty on it. At least until he starts coming for you like that. And then you run away and try and keep him off your back as well. If only mowing the real lawn would be as enjoyable and relaxing as this. But sadly, it's not. As I record this, I'm conscious of the fact that before my wife went away on holiday, she asked me to mow the lawn if the weather was nice. Sadly, the weather has not been nice, so I have been unable to mow the lawn, which is a A terrible, terrible Shane, I'm sure you'll agree. Much as I would love to mow the lawn, I'm not going to unless it's reasonably nice out. And not pissing down with rain. Get away. Alright. Oh, getting low on loyalty. We could be in trouble here. Alright, come on, cool down. Okay, safe for now. So we just need to get Alf up here. And we're out of loyalty. I think this is it. That's the end. It's all over. And that's that. Bit of nice colour flow going on there. Again, a very Jeff Minter game over screen. And you'll notice that down in the corner it changes to Jeff Minter's initials. Okay, let's have one more go. Let's have a quick look at what lawn number 4 is like. Because that would be the one after the one we were just doing. So we just see how it gets more difficult. I don't believe there's any system in this that sort of rewards you for starting at a later level. It's just if you want to start at a later level to have a more difficult game and not have to grind your way through the those initial challenges so much. Right, this one's a tricky one because look, there's not much in the way of scenery you can use to block the neighbour. Because he's quite willing to walk over all the flower beds. And so we're going to need to take a fairly sort of roundabout route like this to kind of lead him around the houses a bit. Now, this is one unfortunate bug in the Atari 8-bit version of Hover Bobber here. For those unfamiliar with sort of the basic functionality of the Atari 8-bit, there was a feature built into the system called Attract Mode, named after arcade machines Attract Mode. What it was actually intended to do was to prevent screen burn-in by cycling around the colours. The theory being that if you updated the whole screen by changing all the colours on it, then nothing should get burnt into it. This obviously isn't too much of an issue these days with modern LCD displays, but back in the days of CRTs it was a real problem. And so the functionality was built in to the Atari 8-bits to automatically cycle these colours around. Now most game developers remembered to apply an appropriate poke to the memory register that told the computer to, no, don't do this. However, for whatever reason, Jeff and whoever else worked on the Atari port of this, they forgot to do that. So after a short period of playing, the Attract Mode kicks in and you start getting weird colours. Thankfully, getting rid of it is just a case of tapping a key. But if you're not prepared for that, then yeah, that's something you have to get used to. It's not anything with the game. It's not a mechanic. It's not informing you of anything. Oh, that was terrible, wasn't it? No, it's just the Atari Attract Mode that they forgot to turn off. Yeah, level 4 is hard. So, as we've seen a few times this point already, Jeff Minter's real strength was in taking established formats and making them his own, either with unique thematic variations or weird characters and content, but otherwise basing them on something already well established. So we've seen Attack of the Mutant Camels, which was a take on the Empire Strikes Back game for Atari 2600. We've seen Grid Runner, which was a take on Centipede, And this obviously has a certain amount in common with Pac-Man. So this is basically asking what would happen if you had a much more open plan Pac-Man, in which you didn't so much have a maze, but the emphasis was much more on manipulating the behaviour of your enemies and careful tactical positioning. Not something you'd think you'd say about a game about lawn mowing, but no, careful tactical positioning is definitely a part of it. I finished that level and quite pleased with that. Prepare for more mowing! Alright, another difficult, big, open plan one there. Just 2 bushes to deal with on this one. It's always very satisfying when you do get the mower up to full speed in this, though. It's not something you really have the opportunity to do that much because of all the intricate manoeuvring you need to do. And when that is happening, you do need to be careful not to let your mower overheat as well, because besides hitting the dog, running at full speed for too long we have been joined by my cat Patty, who has busily been having a fight with my other cat Meg, because, well, they don't like each other very much. That's probably a good cue to wrap that up there, I think, isn't it? So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help out the channel by leaving a like or a comment and subscribing. New episodes of Atari A to Z are on Tuesdays and Atari ST A to Z on Thursdays. Check out atariatoz.wordpress.com for a full archive. Do please also check out my other projects moegamer.net, where I explore Japanese and Japanese-inspired games from yesterday and today, and videopackgames.wordpress.com, which aims to catalogue a small but well-formed library of the Philips G7000 Videopack computer, also known as the Magnavox Odyssey 2. You can also support my work on Patreon or buy me a coffee. You can find links to do both down in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.